So how are you going to build that trust if you don't get to have a conversation? Because one of the biggest emotional points that they're going to have to jump over outside of just what's happening in their family is telling a stranger that experience when they start talking to a law firm.
Right.
That's not an easy thing to do. So
they only really want to do it once.
Yeah, they don't want to do it a whole bunch. And if you're going to do it well and serve them well, like you have to pull a lot of information out of them so you know what type of case you're getting into.
Well, hello and welcome to the Jay Sterling Hughes Show, where we share how we have built our family law practice from 0 to 25 attorneys and $15 million in revenue all in the past 10 years. And my purpose here is to document what's working and what's not working with hopes that you can take that, you can recontextualize it and shorten your success curve. My guest today is my partner, my co-founder, Tony Carls. Him and I started Sterling Lawyers about 10 years ago. And he's back today to talk about a real important tool that we used very early on to shape how we went to market, how we positioned our law firm. It turned out to really set us up for a lot of success down the road. Today, Tony is the president of RocketClicks, our digital agency. Him and his team do all of our marketing at Sterling Lawyers. They do this for other lawyers too. So he's here to kind of share his knowledge around our client interviews that we did way back in the day. So what do we do and how did it benefit us, and how can a listener take that and use it for their firm?
Yeah, I know we're telling stories about what we did and how we did things differently and probably could have done them better. All our lessons learned. This is one actually I think we did pretty well. I wish we would have done it sooner, but we still did it really early. But yeah, we really wanted to understand once we landed on our ideal client profile of a female going through a divorce or paternity action with some demographics associated with that. What did they really want? And we did a bunch of client interviews. We actually did 3 rounds of this. Each one was about...
So before you jump into those rounds, just to give listeners some more context. So when we shifted to really focus on family law, we wanted to have a bullseye client that we could speak to, build our operations, our systems, our processes, our marketing all around this one person. And we chose a female in the middle stages of life going through divorce, like you said, some other metrics that went along with that, income, education level, and so forth.
Yeah, we got really silly about it too, because if you ask anyone from the early days if they remember Molly, they'll definitely remember Molly, because we had this creepy mannequin that we drug around the office, and she sat in our meetings, and she was our ideal client profile. So
yeah, it turned out to be a bad idea, but the intention was to always have our client in the room with us as we're making decisions. And just to be clear, we didn't focus the firm around just serving females. We serve females and males. If we could talk to her and get her attention and her love for us, we felt like we could get the other less discriminatory folks that can make a decision really fast and just go with it.
Yeah. There was a lot of reasons on why we picked who we picked, but then we wanted to really know what's important to them, because it's once you know that, understand your business, what you're doing, how you're unique, and then you understand who your ideal client profile is and what they care about, your ability to communicate with them in the marketplace exponentially increases. When we did this, we were about 18 months in. We did 1.9 that year. And then in 2016, in February, we completely pivoted the firm away from the general practice, cut our firm in half basically. And by the end of that year, I think we did 1.8 that year. So we basically did a crater and then started growing. And then the following year, I believe we did 3.5 that year, because we got really, really specific, and we just the momentum just started going and going and going. And it's because we got intentional and specific around everything.
Yeah.
So,
and we rode that philosophy to where we are today. We don't do anything more today than we did back in 2016 when we made that pivot.
Yep. Yeah, we just do it in more areas, more geographic areas. So
Molly's not with us anymore.
Molly's not with us anymore. She kind of literally fell apart. I think it was one Christmas, there was a joke because someone stole her wig, and then she lost her arms. And
yeah. She fell apart, literally fell apart.
But yeah, that was fun.
So walk through the 3 stages of that interview process, if you can, to illustrate what we did and how it benefited us.
We talked about the purpose of these interviews is to really get under the hood of who your ideal client is. Let's talk to them. Let's understand really what they need. One word of advice here is, if there's a lot of things that are really, really important to you about how you think it should be practiced and you don't necessarily care what the client has to say, have someone else do it. Mm-hmm. Let them tell you the truth versus be frustrated in an interview because you're hearing something you don't want to hear. You need to hear it. And you probably don't want to hear it from the people that could be referrals for you because they're going to tell you stuff that's just honest. So if that's hard, like assign it to a really happy paralegal or someone on your support team that you feel like can have a good conversation. Because the purpose of this interview is to tell us how they want this firm built, not for us to tell them how we're going to build it. That was what we went into. We have to identify who we're going to interview. So what we did, because we didn't have current clients that we used, we were too new, so we didn't have tons of closed cases. And frankly, we weren't that great. So we didn't go to our client pool. What we did do is we seeded it for, I thank my mother for this. She was our biggest seed. So she, unlike me, is someone that likes to talk to lots of people. I'm a little more seclusive in my world. She was a seed for us in terms of who else she knew. Because like we said, I think in a previous podcast, like my background, I have a family bush, not a family tree. Because I had siblings and none of us had the same sets of parents. So I had a treasure trove of people to go talk to that I knew. So we seeded it that way. And she brought, I think that first one, we had 12 or 15 people show up and we went to Moe's Irish Pub. We had a happy hour in the back room and I asked them a whole bunch of questions about their divorce. It was kind of like a Tupperware party, but it wasn't a Tupperware party. That's what we did. We hosted it. They got apps and they got drinks, and we got so much information. It was unbelievably valuable what we got because they were all the right type of interviewee. So they were all females. They all looked right in that space, or they were in that space when they went through the divorce. So decide on who you're going to interview. What's the format going to be? You could do one-on-ones. It takes a lot more work. That might be what you have to do. Interviews or focus groups. That's kind of what we did. Or you do surveys if you don't want to talk to people. You're going to need a lot more potential people to go through that. And you're going to miss the nuance because they're likely not recorded. The emotion's going to go away because it's going to be written typically. So I would encourage either the one-on-one or the group dynamic because you're going to get where all the goodies were is, someone uncomfortably talking to the group and just talking about what they actually went through, and what they wish they went through. Now it was hard and all of that.
Yeah.
And we learned so much. So, we just had to prepare the questions. It was easy for me because I just had to sit there and listen and write notes. And then really after, spend some time really going through my thoughts on what I heard. So I would make sure you set time aside after to reflect, prepare your questions. The way we did it is we did it, the questions from a marketing perspective. They weren't like, how old are you? That wasn't really the types of questions they were. They were demographically based, but more leaning towards like, how do you make decisions like this? Or what are the biggest fears, psychographics? Where are you located? Based on where you're located, how open were you to going distances to meet with your potential attorney when you were hiring them? Like, what did that whole process look like? It was all of those types of questions.
Yeah, then after you compiled all that data from that meeting, how did you take that and use that to transform our marketing, our process approach to serving clients? Mm-hmm. How did you practically use that? So
one of the buckets we looked at was determining buying behavior. And what we wanted to understand there is, how fast is this process? And like, if it's fast, like what's important? If it's not, what's important to you? And that really informed how we built our website. So our website has tons and tons of information. It's got a lot of tools. They're all free. We're not doing a lot of trading of information because that's not what these people wanted when we talked to them. They're very research focused. We basically redid it with a panel in front of our whole team with 3 different clients. I think that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The same things that were said then were said at the original interviews. And most people that are filing for divorce, what we found is their research process is really long. So what we wanted to do is respect that and give a lot of information away so that they started trusting our brand, because we didn't have any brand equity when we launched our firm. Most firms don't. So how are you going to build that trust if you don't get to have a conversation? Because one of the biggest emotional points that they're going to have to jump over outside of just what's happening in their family is telling a stranger that experience when they start talking to a law firm.
All right.
That's not an easy thing to do. So
they only really want to do it once.
Yeah, they don't want to do it a whole bunch. And if you're going to do it well and serve them well, like, you have to pull a lot of information out of them so you know what type of case you're getting into. So like that really informs how you build your intake team, who's answering the phone, how that process should be built, because it shouldn't be a fast process. It should be a slow process. One of the things we talked about at the beginning of our firm was, if we're successful on these calls, they're going to take at least 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be long. We're going to make them long on purpose,
right,
so that they feel like we care. That was because that's what they wanted. They wanted to feel like somebody else cared, because most of them were alone. That was another thing.
That's really the opposite of how intake teams are run. They're usually run with one of the major metrics being handle time. The lower the handle time, the better. We went the other way. The longer the handle time, the better. The more we could connect with our clients. That made a big difference for us.
Yeah, and like, that might be actually a good strategy for a different type of law, but it's all going to be in like what's important.
Yeah.
Like, if we were going to do criminal defense, I would imagine it would look extraordinarily different, and handoffs immediately to an attorney is exactly what we should do. Mm-hmm. It's likely they have a big problem. They want to know, they want to move forward. They're super scared. What's going to happen to me? And it's all happening. Versus, I just researched for 3 years. I have an emotional spike because I'm sharing all of this with a stranger that I don't know. Like, calm me down. Help me feel at ease.
Yeah.
It's a very different intake process. You'll know these things if you do these types of interviews. We looked at buying behaviors. We looked at psychographics, like, what are fears, concerns, like what do these things mean to you in terms of what does it look like if you're not with your kids? What does it look like if you are? It helps us position content. It helps us talk to them more specifically on the intake call, how we collect information from them, all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think the psychographics area is the area where it was the most counterintuitive, because the stuff that at least I did as a lawyer thought the clients wanted, they told us something different there. Because the demographics, we can figure that out. That's data based on unchangeable things, but you're looking inside someone's brain and trying to get a feel for what they find as like raw and important. That's where I think the real gold was found through that process.
Yeah, I would 100% agree.
Because it not only impacted the marketing that you did, but like you said, it impacted the intake team and impacted how we served once they became a client. It impacted all the way through that process.
It helped us with offers too. I think one of the things we're going to talk about at some point here is how we think about offers. Because like, if you understand that this is a long process, that also means there's a lot of educational opportunities. So like, what are you doing to do that? So we have lots of recorded webinars, we have live workshops, like we have other service offerings that are there on purpose, not just for the point of doing lead magnets, which is typically what you do in marketing, but it just directly aligns with what they want, because they're slowly going through this process of this 2 to 3 year journey of getting closer and closer to, I don't know if I want to make this decision. I don't know if I want to make this decision. Nothing's changing. I've tried everything. These people have not pressured me. All right, now I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah.
Client interviews, unbelievably valuable. I wish we would have done them right after we did our initial research, because we would have found out these groups are all different. There's no way we can build a website.
Yeah.
So that would be the biggest lesson learned. I think we did this well. I wish we would have done this sooner. I think one of the things that we could have done more frequently is doing them with and in front of our attorney team once we knew that, because that client panel session we had, I think, was very impactful for some of our top performers to just get a download of how it felt after.
Yeah, that was a great experience for our whole team, our paralegals and everybody. I think there were a lot of aha moments, so it's something we've incorporated. Want to keep doing going forward.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This has been great. And the tool you developed there was a real benefit to our firm. So I hope other people can take what you've done and build on that for their firm.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks.